The Galactic Concord had existed for 12,000 years. It was a union of 847 different species from across the galaxy. They had built great cities on 1,000 worlds. They had created wonders that could bend space and time. They had learned to live together in peace. War was something they read about in old history books. It was a thing that primitive species did before they grew wise. The conquered had moved beyond such barbarism long ago. They settled their differences with words and trade. Violence was unnecessary when everyone had enough. Ambassador belonged to one of the oldest species in the conquered. He had 4 arms, blue skin, and 4 hearts beating in his chest. He had served as a diplomat for 60 years. He had welcomed dozens of new species into the conquered. It was easy work. Most new species were grateful and eager to join. His latest assignment was a small planet called Earth. Studied the files on his journey there. The humans were not impressive on paper. They had soft bodies with no natural armor. They had no claws or fangs. They could not see in the dark or hear distant sounds. They lived for less than 100 years, which was very short by galactic standards. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. They had just one. They had never met another intelligent species before. In short, they were nobody special. Arrived at Earth's orbital station with low expectations. He expected the humans to be nervous and excited, like all young species meeting the wider galaxy for the first time. The human delegation was waiting for him in a simple meeting room. There were 5 of them. Their leader was a haired female named. She had lines on her face and calm eyes that had seen many things. She smiled politely and shook his hand in the human way of greeting. "Welcome to Earth Space, Ambassador," she said. "We are honored by your visit." "The honor is mine," replied. It was the standard response. The Galactic Concord is always happy to meet new friends. The first few days went smoothly. Learned about human culture, their art, their music, their strange foods. They were a curious species. They asked many questions about the galaxy and listened carefully to his answers. He noticed something odd about them, though. They were friendly, yes, but there was something behind their eyes, a weight, a tiredness that did not match their young civilization. He could not explain it, so he ignored it. On the 5th day began the formal evaluation. This was a standard process. He had done it many times before. He asked about their government, their economy, their technology. The humans answered everything openly. Then he reached the final section of his questionnaire. "Now," said, "I must ask about your defensive capabilities. What weapons does your species possess for self-defense?" It was a simple question. Every species had some form of defense. Most had basic energy shields or simple projectile weapons. Some had developed more advanced technology. None of it was ever very impressive. The conquered had maintained peace for so long that weapons development had mostly stopped. But when asked the question, something strange happened. The 5 humans looked at each other. It was quick, just a glance, but had been a diplomat for 60 years. He knew how to read people. Ambassador was still smiling, but her smile had changed. It was not unfriendly, but it was careful now, guarded. "That is an interesting question," she said slowly. "Perhaps we should schedule a separate session to discuss that topic." Tilted his head. "A separate session? Is there a problem?" "No problem at all," said. "It is simply a complex subject. We want to make sure we present it properly." "I see," said. He did not see at all. In 60 years of diplomatic work, no species had ever hesitated to answer the weapons question. Most were eager to show off their defenses. They wanted to prove they could protect themselves. Why were the humans being so careful? Agreed to the separate session. It was scheduled for 3 days later. The humans suggested holding it aboard their diplomatic vessel instead of the station. They said they had better presentation equipment there. Accepted. He was curious now. He sent a message to the conquered suggesting they send observers. The humans were behaving strangely about a simple question. Perhaps others should witness their answer. The response surprised him. 30 different species wanted to send representatives. Word had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see what the humans were hiding. On the day of the presentation, boarded the human ship with representatives from 30 worlds. The vessel was simple but clean. The humans led them to a large room with many seats and a big screen on one wall. Ambassador stood at the front. She was wearing different clothes today. Darker, more formal, her face was serious. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "Before we begin, I want to say something. What you are about to see may be disturbing. It is not meant to frighten you. It is simply the truth about our species. We believe honesty is the foundation of any good relationship." Felt his 4 hearts beat a little faster. Disturbing. What could possibly be disturbing about defensive weapons? "We will start at the beginning," continued. "With our earliest history. Please save your questions until the end." The lights dimmed, the screen lit up. And learned that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not harmless. They were not weak. They were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. They had simply been polite enough not to mention it. The screen showed an image of early humans. They were small and weak, standing on a grassy plain under a yellow sun. Around them were large animals with sharp teeth and claws. "Humans evolved on a dangerous world," Ambassador began. "We had no armor, no claws, no venom. We were not the strongest or the fastest. By all logic, we should have died out millions of years ago." She clicked to the next image. It showed a human holding a sharp rock. "But we learned to make tools, and the first tools we made were weapons." The presentation moved forward through history. Watched as humans created spears from sticks and stones. They made bows that could shoot arrows across great distances. They forged swords from metal. This was not surprising. Many species had similar histories, relaxed a little. Perhaps the humans were just being dramatic. Then the presentation reached something called gunpowder. The screen showed a black powder that could explode with great force. Humans had discovered it over 1,000 years ago. They had immediately found ways to use it for killing. Cannons that could destroy castle walls, guns that could kill from far away, bombs that could be thrown into crowds. The alien delegates watched silently. Some of them shifted in their seats. "By 500 years ago," said, "humans could kill each other very efficiently, but we were just getting started." The next section showed something called the Industrial Revolution. Humans had built machines that could make weapons faster than ever before, guns that could fire hundreds of bullets per minute, shells that could explode and send sharp metal flying in all directions. Saw images of human wars from this period, thousands of bodies lying in muddy fields, cities burning, ships sinking into dark waters. "This was called the First World War," said. "It lasted 4 years. 17 million humans died." The room was very quiet now. "During this war," continued, "we developed new weapons, poison gas that could burn lungs and skin, tanks that could crush soldiers beneath their wheels, aircraft that could drop bombs from the sky." She paused and looked at the audience. "And when the war ended, we did not stop. We built better weapons, deadlier weapons, because we knew another war would come." The screen changed to show a second great conflict. This one was called the Second World War. It was worse than the first. Learned about concentration camps where millions of people were killed simply for being different. He learned about cities that were burned to ash by endless bombing. He learned about a nation that chose to destroy itself rather than surrender. 70 million humans died in this war, said. That is more than the entire population of most conquered species. A delegate from the crystalline hegemony raised a trembling limb. How long ago was this war? About 300 years ago, answered. 300 years, that was nothing. Himself was older than that. These were not ancient events. This was recent history. But the worst part, said slowly, was what we created at the end of this war. The screen showed a single bomb falling from an aircraft, then a flash of light brighter than a star. A cloud shaped like a mushroom rose into the sky. Below it, a city was gone, just gone. Nothing left but shadows burned into stone. This was called an atomic bomb, said. It killed 80,000 people in less than 1 second, and that was our first attempt. We quickly built better ones. She showed them hydrogen bombs, weapons 1,000 times more powerful than the first atomic bomb, weapons that could destroy entire regions, weapons that could poison the land for generations. We built thousands of these weapons, said. We pointed them at each other. For decades, we lived with the knowledge that at any moment our entire species could be destroyed. A delegate spoke up. You aimed weapons of extinction at your own species, at yourselves. Yes, said simply. But why? Paused. Because our enemies had them too, and we believed that if everyone had the power to destroy everything, no one would dare to attack first. She showed them maps with thousands of red dots. Each dot was a nuclear weapon. Each dot could end millions of lives. This strategy was called mutually assured destruction, explained. We shortened it to MAD. The name was appropriate. The alien delegates looked sick. Some species had changed color. Others were shaking. The crystalline delegate had developed cracks in its outer shell. These weapons still exist, continued. We have approximately 12,000 nuclear warheads ready for use at any moment. On Earth alone, our colony worlds have their own arsenals. She let that information settle. But nuclear weapons are only part of our capabilities. We also developed chemical weapons, gases that attack the nervous system. One drop on your skin can kill you in minutes. We developed biological weapons, diseases created in laboratories, plagues that can spread across continents. The screen showed images that wished he could forget, victims of nerve gas, bodies twisted in agony, cities quarantined because of engineered diseases. These weapons are banned now, said. We consider them too horrible to use, but we know how to make them. That knowledge cannot be unlearned. Ambassador turned off the screen. The room was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I have shown you our history, she said quietly. I have shown you what we are capable of. We did not share this information to frighten you. We shared it because you asked, and because we believe you deserve to know the truth. She looked around the room at the shocked faces. We are not proud of this history. We carry it with us like a heavy weight, but it is part of who we are. If you want humanity to join the conquered, you should know what you are inviting in. Finally found his voice. It came out as a whisper. Are there any weapons you have not told us about? Ambassador smiled. It was a sad smile. Ambassador, I have been talking for 2 hours. I have barely scratched the surface. She reached for the controls again. Shall I continue? The presentation continued for 4 more hours. Ambassador showed them things that no species in the galactic conquered had ever imagined. Not just weapons, but ways of thinking about war that were completely alien to them. She explained something called scorched earth. When human armies retreated, they destroyed everything behind them. They burned crops. They poisoned wells. They demolished buildings. They left nothing for the enemy to use. They would rather destroy their own land than let someone else have it. The delegates could not understand this. Why destroy your own resources? Why hurt yourself to hurt your enemy? Because sometimes, explained, the only way to win is to make sure your enemy loses more than you do. She told them about siege warfare. Armies would surround cities and wait. They would not attack. They would simply stop any food or water from entering. They would wait for months or even years until everyone inside died of hunger. Men, women, children. It did not matter. Starvation killed them all the same. Then she introduced a concept called total war. In total war, there were no limits. Every person in the nation became part of the war effort. Factories made weapons instead of goods. Farmers grew food for soldiers instead of civilians. Scientists created new ways to kill. Everyone worked. Everyone sacrificed. Everyone was a target. In total war, said, there is no difference between soldiers and civilians. Everything that helps your enemy is a valid target. Factories, farms, cities, people. A delegate from the ETH collective spoke up. You bombed cities full of people who were not soldiers. Yes, said. We called it strategic bombing. We believed that if we destroyed enough cities, the enemy population would lose hope and stop fighting. Did it work? Paused. Sometimes. Other times it just made people angrier. They fought harder because they had nothing left to lose. She showed them more concepts. Guerrilla warfare, where small groups of fighters hid among civilians and attacked when least expected. Psychological operations, where armies spread lies and fear to break enemy morale. Espionage, where spies stole secrets and killed important people in the shadows. The delegates learned that humans had made war into a science. They studied it in schools. They wrote books about it. They trained specialists in every aspect of destruction. They created whole organizations dedicated to finding new ways to defeat enemies. And they never stopped improving. Every war taught us lessons, explained. After every conflict, we studied what worked and what did not. We made our weapons better. We made our strategies smarter. We became more efficient at killing. She showed them charts. The number of deaths in human wars had grown larger over time. As their technology improved, so did their ability to destroy. In ancient times, wars killed thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions, then tens of millions. If we fought another world war today, said quietly, we could kill billions. We could end human civilization. We could make Earth uninhabitable for thousands of years. Delegate Haz of the crystalline hegemony had been silent for a long time. Now he spoke, and his voice was shaking. You developed weapons that could kill your entire species. Then you kept building more. Why? Why would any sane creature do this? Looked at him with tired eyes. Because we were afraid, she said. We were afraid that if we stopped, someone else would keep going, and then they would have power over us. So we kept building. We kept improving. We kept preparing for wars we hoped would never come. This is madness, Haz said. Yes, agreed, we know. She turned off the presentation. The room was dark except for small emergency lights along the floor. Nobody moved to turn on the main lights. I want you to understand something, said into the darkness. We are not proud of what I have shown you. Every weapon I described was built because we were afraid of each other. Every war was fought because we could not find another way. Every death is a mark of our failure as a species. She walked closer to the delegates. But here is the truth that you need to hear. We learned. Every generation we learned a little more. We saw what war did to us, and we tried to find better ways. We created laws to limit warfare. We banned certain weapons because they were too horrible. We built international organizations to solve disputes peacefully. But you still have the weapons, said. You still have the nuclear bombs, the chemical agents, the biological weapons. If you truly wanted peace, would you not destroy them? Smiled sadly. Some have been destroyed. Many remain. We keep them because we remember. We remember how quickly peace can become war. We remember that there are always those who would use violence to take what they want. She looked around the room. Your galactic concord has been peaceful for 12,000 years. That is wonderful, truly wonderful. But humans remember when we were not peaceful. We remember the cost of war. And we keep our weapons because we never want to pay that cost again. Delegate Eth of the Flowing Current spoke for the first time. You keep weapons of extinction as a reminder. Partly, said, And partly because we know that peace is fragile. We know it can shatter in an instant. If it does, we want to be ready. She walked back to the front of the room and turned on the lights. The delegates blinked in the sudden brightness. "I have answered your question about human weapons," said. "Now you must decide what to do with this information. Will you welcome humanity into your Concord? Will you reject us? Will you try to destroy us before we become a threat?" She met their eyes one by one. "Whatever you decide, please know this. We did not come to the stars looking for enemies. We came looking for friends. We came hoping that somewhere in this vast galaxy we might find species who could help us become better than we are." She sat down. "The presentation is over. I will answer any questions you have." For a long moment, nobody spoke. The delegates looked at each other, at the blank screen, at the small human woman who had just shown them nightmares. Then stood up on shaking legs. "I need to send a message to the Concord Council," he said. "They need to know about this immediately." He left the room quickly. Other delegates followed. Soon, messages were flying across the galaxy faster than anyone had ever sent them before. Humanity had introduced itself to the stars. And the stars were terrified. The news spread across the galaxy like a disease. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Concord knew about the humans. They knew about the nuclear weapons. They knew about the world wars. They knew about mutually assured destruction. They knew that a young species from an unremarkable planet had developed the power to destroy themselves many times over. And they were afraid. The Concord Council met in emergency session on their capital world. The great circular chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Normally, council meetings were calm and orderly. Today, everyone was talking at once. High Aura called for silence. She was ancient even by galactic standards, with silver scales and wise eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Her voice carried the weight of centuries. "We will have order," she said. "Panic serves no one. We must discuss this situation calmly and decide how to proceed." But calm was difficult to find. Delegate of the Martial Brotherhood stood up. His species was the closest thing the Conquered had to warriors. They practiced combat as an art form and took pride in their fighting skills. "I have studied the human presentation," said. "I have spent my entire life learning combat. I have trained with every species in the Conquered, but these humans," he shook his head, "they fight like nothing I have ever seen. Their creativity for violence is beyond anything we imagined." Another delegate spoke up. "Then we must contain them. We cannot allow such a dangerous species to spread across the galaxy. We must quarantine their system, keep them trapped on their worlds." "And how do you propose we do that?" Aura asked. "The humans have already proven they can travel faster than light. They have colony ships. They have already established settlements on other worlds. Will you attack them? Will you start the very war you fear?" The chamber fell silent. A thin being with a massive brain visible through transparent skin, rose slowly from his seat. He was known for his intelligence and his ability to see patterns others missed. "I have been analyzing human history," he said. "I have studied their population growth, their technological progress, their patterns of warfare. What I found disturbs me greatly." He activated a display in the center of the chamber. Charts and graphs appeared, showing lines that climbed ever upward. "Humans do not simply create weapons," N explained. "They improve them, constantly, endlessly. Each generation develops more powerful tools of destruction than the last. Stone weapons became metal weapons. Metal weapons became guns. Guns became bombs. Bombs became nuclear weapons." He pointed to a line that rose sharply. "This is their rate of weapons development over time. It is accelerating. Every century, they make greater advances than the century before. The humans who discovered nuclear weapons did so less than 100 years after they first achieved powered flight." The delegates murmured anxiously. Now consider this, N continued. The humans have only been a spacefaring species for 30 years. What will their weapons look like in another 30 years? In 100? In 1,000? He let the question hang in the air. We have maintained peace for 12,000 years because no species in the conquered could gain enough advantage to conquer the others. But humans, he shook his head. They are different. They learn faster. They adapt faster. They innovate faster. If we give them time, they will develop weapons we cannot imagine. Delegate Ara of the Peaceful One stood up. Her species had no concept of violence. They resolved all disputes through meditation and understanding. Perhaps we are looking at this wrong, she said gently. The humans chose to share this information with us. They were honest about their capabilities when they could have hidden them. Does that not suggest they want peace? Or it suggests they are confident enough in their power that they do not fear us, someone replied. The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to attack the humans immediately before they grew stronger. Others wanted to isolate them and hope they destroyed themselves. A few suggested trying to form an alliance, keeping the humans close where they could be watched. High Aura listened to all of it. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. I have read the complete human history file, she said slowly, all 40,000 years of it, and I noticed something that none of you have mentioned. She stood and walked to the center of the chamber. The humans have fought constantly. They have developed terrible weapons. They have killed each other in numbers we cannot comprehend. This is all true, she paused, but they are still here. The delegates looked confused. Think about it, Aura continued. They had weapons that could destroy their world. They had reasons to use them. Several times they came very close, but they did not. Every time they reached the edge of extinction, they stepped back. She looked around the chamber. They had civil wars, but they did not fragment into separate species. They had nuclear weapons, but they did not use them after those first 2 bombs. They developed biological weapons, then banned them. They created chemical weapons, then agreed not to use them. She returned to her seat. The humans are not mindless destroyers. They are survivors. They have looked into the darkness of their own nature and found ways to pull back. That takes strength. That takes wisdom. That takes the kind of self-control that most species never develop because they never need to. The chamber was quiet now. I am not saying we should trust them blindly, Aura said. I am saying we should not act from fear alone. The humans came to us openly. They told us the truth about themselves, even knowing how we might react. That deserves consideration. N spoke again. And what if they turn on us? What if they decide to conquer the conquered? Aura smiled slightly. Then we will face the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known. But I suspect that if we treat them as enemies, that is exactly what they will become. And if we treat them as friends, we may gain the most powerful allies imaginable. She stood again. I propose we invite the human ambassador to address this council directly. Let us hear from them. Let us understand them. And then let us decide what kind of future we want to build. The vote was close, but it passed. A message was sent to Earth. Ambassador was coming to the Galactic Council. The fate of humanity in the galaxy would be decided in the next few days. Ambassador stood at the entrance of the Grand Council chamber. Before her stretched a vast circular room filled with representatives from nearly 1,000 different species. Beings of every shape, size, and color watched her with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and distrust. She walked forward slowly. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. High Aura spoke from her elevated position at the center of the chamber. Ambassador, thank you for accepting our invitation. The Galactic Conquered has questions for you. I will answer what I can, replied. Aura studied her for a long moment. Then she asked the question that everyone in the chamber was thinking. Why have you not conquered us? Blinked, whatever she had expected, it was not this. I am sorry. Your species has weapons beyond our imagination, Aura said. You have developed the art of war for 40,000 years. You are aggressive, creative, and relentless. The Galactic Concord has been peaceful for so long that we have forgotten how to fight. If you wanted to conquer us, you probably could. She leaned forward. So why have you not? Why come to us with open hands instead of weapons? Why ask to join us instead of demanding surrender? Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. Because we are tired. The chamber was completely silent. You see our weapons and our wars, continued. You see the death counts and the destruction. You see the terrible things we have done to each other, but you do not see what we see. She walked slowly around the center of the chamber as she spoke. We see the memorial walls with millions of names carved into stone. We see the empty chairs at dinner tables where fathers and mothers and children should be sitting. We see the old soldiers who wake up screaming because they cannot forget what they saw and what they did. Her voice remained steady, but there was weight in every word. Every human alive carries the memory of our wars. We teach our children about them so they will understand the cost. We build monuments so we will never forget. We tell stories of the suffering so that future generations will know why peace matters. She stopped walking and faced the high. You ask why we have not conquered you. The answer is simple. We have spent thousands of years conquering each other. We have seen what victory looks like. It looks like ashes and graves. It looks like orphaned children and burned cities. It looks like generations of hatred that never truly heals. She shook her head. We did not come to the stars to find new enemies. We came hopping to find something different, something better. We came hopping that the universe might offer us a future where we do not have to be what we have always been. A delegate stood up. But you kept your weapons. You did not destroy them. How can we believe you want peace when you maintain the ability to make war? Nodded, a fair question. Let me answer it with a story. She gathered her thoughts. 300 years ago, two great nations on Earth pointed thousands of nuclear weapons at each other. Each side could destroy the other completely. Each side knew that if they attacked, they would be destroyed in return. So neither attacked. She paused. For decades, we lived like this. Children grew up learning to hide under desks in case of nuclear attack. Families built shelters in their backyards. Everyone knew that at any moment the world could end. Her eyes grew distant. It was a terrible time, but we survived it. And do you know why? Because somewhere on both sides there were people who refused to push the button. When computers showed false alarms, they waited to verify. When leaders demanded action, others counseled patience. Again and again, individuals chose to step back from the edge. She looked around the chamber. We keep our weapons because we remember how fragile peace can be. We remember that there will always be those who want to take by force what they cannot earn through cooperation. We hope we never have to use these weapons again. But if someone threatens our families, our homes, our friends, we will be ready. High Aura considered this. You are asking us to trust a species that has proven itself capable of unimaginable violence. No, said. I am asking you to trust a species that has proven itself capable of stopping. We have stood at the edge of extinction by our own hands more than once, and every time we chose to live. We chose to try again. We chose to believe that we could be better. She took a deep breath. Is that not the most human thing of all? To make terrible mistakes and still hope for redemption. To know our own darkness and still reach for the light. The chamber was silent. Representatives from hundreds of worlds looked at this small, haired woman who spoke of horrors with tired wisdom and wars with genuine sorrow. Finally, Aura spoke. The conquered must vote. The question is simple. Do we accept humanity as a member species, or do we reject them? The voting took less than a minute. One by one, the representatives signaled their choice. The numbers appeared on a central display. It was unanimous. Every single species voted to accept humanity. Stood very still. She had not expected this. She had prepared herself for rejection, for quarantine, even for war. She had not prepared for welcome. Aura rose from her seat. The vote is complete. Humanity is now a member of the Galactic Concord. She walked down to where stood and extended her hand in the human greeting. Welcome to the galaxy, Ambassador. We hope that together we can build a future worthy of both our histories. Took her hand. Her eyes were wet. Thank you, she whispered. We will try to be worthy of your trust. As she left the chamber, wondered what the future would bring. Humanity had been accepted not despite their violent past, but because of what that past had taught them. They had learned lessons in blood and fire that these peaceful species had never needed to learn. Perhaps that knowledge would never be needed again. But if it was, humanity would be ready. And the galaxy would be grateful to have them as friends. 50 years later, when the Or Imperium sent scouts into conquered space with demands of surrender, the response was swift. The Conquered forwarded the recording of Ambassador's original presentation along with a simple message. The humans would like to respond to your ultimatum personally. The Or Imperium was never heard from again. And the Galactic Conquered slept peacefully, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, humanity was watching. They had found friends worth protecting. They would not let them down.